The worst people you know have an opinion and they need you to hear it, to the point where they feel entitled to comment sections of videos that aren't even theirs. The entitlement. So, in case you guys didn't see it, which I'm sure you have at this point, Naughty Dog released a trailer for their upcoming project Intergalactic, and it's like an 80s coded sci-fi adventure. It's got tons of stuff that just looks really solid. Before I talk about this, let me just give you guys my opinions on this. I think it looks really cool. It's aliens, Ripley coded with our lead character. If you're a fan of like 80s nostalgia, it had a ton of stuff. The ship had Porsche on it. You had the Walkmans with CD players, Pet Shop Boys. If you were a fan of Run DMC like I was when you were growing up, you got the Adidas in there, the leather jacket, just everything looked really fun. So all of the outrage over this game feels so extremely forced, it is embarrassing. It is absolutely embarrassing. We're going to look at some of the worst takes today when it comes to this. But here we have Colt Eastwood, I guess a content creator. I've never heard of this person, but I saw this and this just made me laugh out loud, like literally. Naughty Dog has disabled comments on the new Intergalactic game trailer. Why? So there's only two things you can take from this. Being disingenuous on Twitter for social media engagement farming to make a little bit of that sweet money because you got a blue check mark, 8 million impressions on this as of me recording this video, but you know why. Or the other flip side of that is you're stupid and you really don't know, which, I mean, I've seen people with stupidity fall into success before, so not a big surprise. But I believe you do know because you guys know for sure 100% what these comments were. They were racist, sexist, misogynistic, queerphobic stuff. Like all of that was in the comment section. And Naughty Dog doesn't owe you their comment section. They don't owe it to you. They don't have to like allow you to do that. You guys can run back to Twitter where Elon coddles you and makes you feel validated so you can get your social media engagement over there, which is what a lot of you guys have done. As we go through these, you're going to see that a lot of these comments were made on Twitter because Twitter allows hate content. They allow people to be hateful and stupid and outrage farm in the open. One of the things I've noticed about Twitter and the way it works now is that these guys there is no shame at all in what they're doing because they don't care. Elon allows them to do this to make money and it fucks up our fandom. That's the reality of it. Let's look at some of these takes. I posted a lot of these in my community tab because I was just baffled by this, but I want to give you guys my actual thoughts on them as we go through these. So this one was from Grums. And I posted, these annoying gnats are just miserable 24/7. It must suck to force themselves to hate everything out of spite. And I still stand by that. This feels like forced outrage. Grum says, the Naughty Dog choice of protagonist is just so damn predictable. Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, newly announced. What's predictable about this? What's predictable about it? You mean the little bubble that you guys live in where you're like, oh, woman of color, acting badass, must be upset. Must be angry. It's like this caveman telepathy with you guys. It really is. It truly is a thing of wonder, in my opinion. I thought this one was rather funny from Robert Storms. Now, if you don't remember Robert Storms, this is somebody who went viral for being mad about Parasite, a movie that he had never seen, not understanding why it was well received and why it won awards. So he just made an ass of himself doing that, in case you forgot. But he says here, can we just have games with females that look like females? That look like females? A couple of things about this. Number one, they're video game characters. They don't actually have physical bodies, okay? They're just a bunch of pieces of information put together to make an image. They're not real. The same way comic books and cartoons are not physical beings. So right away, you're telling me that all you care about is how they look, not about nothing else about them. Their personalities, the acting behind these characters, nothing. You just want them to look a certain way. But these are also the same people that in general would argue that someone like a trans woman can't be a woman because even if they look like a woman, they're not physically a woman. But then someone who was assigned female at birth, who was born with female reproductive organs, is on screen. If they don't present like these guys want, they're still not woman enough for them. So they don't seem to understand the concept of the objectification of a woman in that way. It's really weird to me that even someone who, as far as we know from this trailer, from what we can tell, is a woman, if they look even slightly masculine in terms of binary presentation of gender, then there's a question on whether or not they're actually a female to these guys. It's such the emotional maturity and the brain rot. It's the brain rot, really, that creates this kind of environment. We have to move on from this. Okay, so we know that Tectone has a bunch of drama surrounding him. We're not going to get into that here, but I thought this was also a funny take. What the video game industry thinks we want versus what we actually want. So I would ask then, why is it that Stellar Blade did not have massive record-breaking numbers? Why was it not some sort of revolutionary game in a sea of woke games? I don't mean it did okay or that it slightly exceeded sales expectations or any of those things. According to you guys who went crazy over Stellar Blade, okay? According to you guys, it was the game that was going to break the internet and it was going to make everything better. Then you even accused it of being woke because of all the censorship controversy. But if Stellar Blade truly was revolutionary in a world of games that are just too woke for the public, then it should have broken boundaries and been the undeniable best game made of all time. Maybe it's a bit hyperbolic. The best game made in the last 10 years. That's what it should have been. If this is the defining factor of what makes a game good, then that should have been the result of it. But guess what? It wasn't. Not saying Stellar Blade wasn't good, but it wasn't some revolutionary anti-woke missile. You know what I mean? It wasn't that. It didn't come down and break the walls down and change gaming forever. It didn't do that. But you know what? Games like the ones you're mad about, story-driven games that don't focus so much on how sexy characters are, they tend to do pretty solid for the most part. But you guys want to keep pretending that this is the definitive design of a game that all gamers want. And you totally dismiss the fact that this may be, like if you're looking at Stellar Blade, that might be something that women who like women would like. Because you're so wrapped up in pandering to straight men that you don't even realize that there's probably a lot of women out there, a lot of pansexual people out there, who probably find the Stellar Blade character very sexy as well. But you wouldn't want to accept that because, again, it's not about the sex appeal of the character. It's about you feeling pandered to, you being catered to, you being represented in the market by given something to objectify. I also want to point out how manufactured this entire thing is when it comes to the culture war. Here you have the person behind Stellar Blade standing with the person behind Intergalactic together in a shot together right after all of this drama sort of dropped. Because guess what? They don't care about this. This is an online outrage machine created by channels and content creators and influencers to generate revenue from a bunch of bigoted people or impressionable people who have found community and purpose within a group of outrage farmers. That's what's happened here. We have one more thing to look at, then I'm gonna give my final thoughts. The last thing I wanna bring up is from our good friend of the channel, Asmongold, who tweeted this out in response to the trailer reaction for Intergalactic. He was arguing with someone about whether or not the game was going to be good. And he goes, to an extent, I'm sure that's true, but I think it's difficult to make the argument that it's just the vocal minority when even on the PlayStation YouTube channel, a video got ratioed by downvotes. And I don't want to argue about someone's personal opinion. Like if you don't think the game looks good and you don't want to support it, you don't have to. You don't have to. Even if we went back and forth about the quality of the game, if you don't have an interest in it, you don't have to support it. So I'm not going to argue that. Whatever opinion he has in that regard is on him. I do want to talk about the concept of ratioed voting on YouTube and anywhere for that matter. It is almost 2025. I've made several videos about this. Most websites have unregulated voting, upvotes and downvotes. Most websites do. It's extremely easy on YouTube to artificially downvote something and make it look bad. It's very easy to do that. And the outrage farming, the spiteful community needs to be visually reminded that they have accomplished something because they have very little power. In reality, you guys have very little power, okay? So you need to be reminded that you are capable of doing something. And so you need the reinforcement of being able to downvote something to the point where it's ridiculous, like the numbers are ridiculous. You have to do that so you feel like you have power, that you've actually accomplished something in your life. That's why you do that. And it's a manipulated system. Anyone that argues something like votes on YouTube, ratios on YouTube, making a side of the argument correct is idiocy. It's an idiot's argument because you cannot prove that those upvotes or downvotes are legitimate. There's no point in even arguing about how many upvotes and downvotes something gets in terms of YouTube. It's pointless. In reality, it's just engagement. We've talked about this so many times on my channel. But here's the deal. My final thoughts on this. Whether or not Intergalactic is a success is going to have very little to do on the lead character being a woman with a shaved head. I think what's going to make or break the game is the quality of the game, which we saw very, very little of in that trailer. So a lot of this outrage is based specifically on the lead character being a woman of color with a shaved head who looks badass. And that is pathetic.